I never thought the day would come when I'd be able to show you this little beauty. Look at that for a cover. This is the King Creole EP, part of the Presley Golden Compact series of EPs released in late 1965 and in the case of this one, early 1966. Now, if you try and find this on eBay, it's going to cost you around about $1,000. This one didn't cost me anywhere near $1,000, and that's because, sadly, it's a repro. Well, I'm going to come back to that in a moment. So today I'm going to be doing something a little bit unusual for me. I'm going to do a recent finds video, records, CDs, and also another recent find related to Elvis. Not a record, not a CD, not a cassette, nothing like that. I'll tell you about that later in the video. All right, so let's go back to this King Creole EP. So it was released along with the Jailhouse Rock EP. I think these came out of France and they are colored vinyl releases. This one here, for example, is on green vinyl. It says it's a limited edition of 200. So I guess there were 1,000 of each record, 5 different colors, 200 copies each. And I'm starting with this one because I can actually show you the original to compare it to. So that's the original from '66. And there is the repro. I don't mind repros as opposed to counterfeits because this is clearly not trying to pass itself off as this. So the covers are very similar. The colors are slightly more vibrant, I suppose you'd say, on the new version. The image is just as sharp as on the Japanese original. And on the back there, it's an exact copy of the original as well. Of course, this is a new one, so it looks noticeably whiter than the original. The lyrics were on a separate sheet on the original. This is the repro. This is actually an inner sleeve. So again, it's just a straight copy of the original one. So the artwork is pretty much the same as the original, but when we get to the record, there are some noticeable differences. The most obvious being this one is on green vinyl, not black. The text and the label designs are also exactly the same as the originals. However, the blue color here is a little bit darker than on the original ones. You can see it says compact double 33, so the original EPs played at 33 RPM, but in fact these EPs play at 45. And there is one major difference between this one and the original Japanese one. This one only has 4 songs. The original has 5, so this one is missing I Want to Be Free. There are only 2 songs on side 2. This particular copy does have a little scratch at the beginning of Don't Leave Me Now, which is the first song on side 2. So it clicks a few times. I bought it brand new, that's just the way it was. I guess that's one of those things when you're buying a new record these days. Another difference is it's in mono. The Japanese original was in reprocessed stereo. I'm guessing it's taken from a digital source, but I have no idea. And the sound quality is perfectly fine. Going back briefly to the King Creole one. Again, there were 5 different versions of this one, all colored vinyl. This one is yellow. The back cover is also a straight copy of the original. What's interesting about the original cover that they've copied is it had a 600 yen price sticker on the back there, which was stuck over the original price of 500 yen. So that 600 yen price sticker was not used until 1968, I believe, from memory. So that original cover was, well, that original record and cover were probably sitting around somewhere for quite some time. Lyrics on the inner sleeve again. And this one is on yellow vinyl. And like the original King Creole Volume 1, it has 4 songs. The version of Lover Doll on this EP, by the way, is the one with the Jordanaires singing backing vocals. So, quite nice if you can't afford the originals. Another thing I picked up recently was this fabulous set of CDs, Elvis Is Back Sessions. If you're going to get this, make sure you get one with a second copy of disc 2, because it seems that the copy of disc 2 in the set has a fault. I haven't heard it because I've only listened to the replacement disc, so I don't know what the fault is with disc 2, but apparently there is a problem with it, so be sure to get the replacement disc as well, or buy a copy that comes with the replacement disc. You may have seen other people opening and talking about this set, so I won't go into too much detail, but it's basically all the sessions from the Elvis Is Back that produced the Elvis Is Back album, as well as the singles from that period. Great sound quality, everything is done in order, starting with Make Me Know It. It goes through each song, each and every take, right the way through to Reconsider Baby, which was the last thing done for the album. Sadly, there was only one take of that, it seems. Well, only one take has survived. It says take 2 is the master. So about these sessions CDs, the only other one I have is Kid Galahad. I was on the fence about these for a long time because I don't spend a lot of time listening to outtakes, but I just figured this one came along at a good price, so I thought, well, why not? Let's give it a chance. Very happy I did. There's just one thing I would say about these sessions CDs, and that is I would prefer it if they didn't put the original album and singles on disc 1, because then you could reduce it to a 3 CD set and make it cheaper. The only people who are going to be buying these kind of sets are hardcore fans, and we've already got this album and the singles. Other than that, get it if you can find it for a good price. So when I got that Elvis Is Back Sessions, I started looking at some of the other sets that are out there, and I was having a good look at the Something for Everybody sessions, and I was thinking about buying it. But I noticed that a lot of the music on there is the Wild in the Country sessions, and I already have this 7-inch classic album 2 CD set here, and most of the outtakes that are on the sessions box set are on here anyway. So for me, not so bothered about the Wild in the Country sessions. I don't really think that the Something for Everybody sessions box is worthwhile getting for me. So something to think about. If you already have this, you may not want to get the sessions box. Same with Potluck. This one has an awful lot of outtakes, a really good set. So for me, I don't think there's enough on the sessions box to really justify getting that one, unless of course I got that and sold this one, but I'm happy enough with this one. Speaking of CD sets, I also picked up this one here, which one of my viewers noticed in the background to my last video, A Boy from Tupelo. This is the Japanese set, and it's quite unusual in that they don't really make too many Japanese versions of CDs and LPs anymore. So yeah, in that sense, it's quite unusual. It's quite a heavy set as well, because it has not only the thick English book, it also has a separate Japanese book. And I've got to say, I was very, very happy with this. Well worth the money here. A lot of the stuff on disc 2, the outtakes, I'd never heard much of that before. Disc 1 I still haven't heard. I'm really looking forward to hearing disc 1 because that has all the masters. And disc 3 just blew me away. I mean, this is the live disc, so they collect what I believe is all of the live 1950s performances that are out there. And the sound quality ranges from very good to very ordinary, but even the ones that sound ordinary in terms of sound quality, they're still great to listen to. It's kind of like listening to music on a scratchy old radio, on a radio with fairly bad reception. You can still hear enough to be able to enjoy the music, and it's just great to listen to some of the songs that he recorded live, which he would record later when he became famous or when he went to RCA. Things like Money Honey, for example, and I Got a Woman. And of course there are songs on here that he never recorded in the studio at all, such as Tweedledee and Fool, 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 and so on. So absolutely well worth it. I'm really looking forward to listening to disc 1. It's got That's Alright, the 45 RPM master, and it's also got the That's Alright single version. So I'm looking forward to listening to the differences between those two. And I also have just recently picked this up. It's the first American issue of That's Alright and Blue Moon of Kentucky. So I believe this came out at the end of 1955. don't know exactly when this particular copy was pressed, but it's certainly not the late 50s version. So sometime between late 55 and 59, I guess. I've just noticed that it has a copy of this later single artwork in there as well. And the only other thing I have related to those early singles, the early RCA ones, is I have a very, very rough copy of Mystery Train from Canada. So the first Canadian singles were released on this blue RCA Victor label, Mystery Train, and I forgot to remember to forget. And I also have this Canadian promo of Milk Cow Blues Boogie. This is another one from late 1955. And the sound on this is really, really good. So I'm looking forward to comparing this as well to the version on the CD there. And that's the other side, You're a Heartbreaker. I know I've said it before, but I think Milk Cow Blues Boogie is a very, very underrated Elvis song, and a great guitar solo from the one and only Scotty Moore. And that gives me a chance to show you this album. This is the Japanese pressing of The Guitar That Changed the World. That's a back cover. And it's actually dated August 1966 on the back cover there, and that's actually when I was born. And I'll just show you the record. It's on the Epic label. And I mention this because the solo that Scotty Moore plays on this album, the solo to Milk Cow Blues Boogie, is a real stonker. It's actually even better than the one he did at Sun. It's kind of a strange album because you have the Jordanaires on there singing the vocals where Elvis would have sang the original vocals. So it takes a couple of listens to get used to, but it gives Scotty himself a chance to shine. So if you can pick this up at a good price, not the Japanese one, but not necessarily the Japanese one, but CD or a cheap LP, it's definitely worth hearing, in my opinion. I've mentioned before that I tend to avoid things like record store day releases and other modern pressings because they just tend to be out of my price range, being imports into Japan. But I made an exception for this album here, the Burning Love RCA Rehearsals. In fact, I was able to find this for about the equivalent of $50 US, 40 odd pounds new in Japan. So I was quite pleased with that. I think it's about the same as it would cost someone outside Japan. And I'm not normally a big fan of rehearsal recordings because I had a couple of FTD CDs that had rehearsals on them, and while I found them fascinating to listen to the first time, they're not the kind of recordings that I would want to go back to. However, this one I was intrigued because it contains several songs that Elvis never formally recorded in the studio. Things like For the Good Times, CC Rider, Proud Mary, Never Been to Spain, Polk Salad Annie, or at least if he did, they weren't released during his lifetime. And they're really well done. I think everyone's really up for it. The band's into it and Elvis is into it. And as it points out on the cover, it actually was the first time that the TCB band had appeared in the studio with Elvis. So I guess everybody was really trying to impress the boss, and he himself was up for it. And in particular, For the Good Times, I think the version of For the Good Times on here is worth the price of the album alone. It's really good to have that without the audience squealing away in the background. And speaking of outtakes, just one more thing I'd like to talk about. My final Elvis recent find. Like I said, it's not a CD, it's not a record or anything like that. It's actually a radio show. And it's called For the Love of Elvis. And it's hosted by my good friend Grant in Australia. And I listened to it for the first time last weekend, I think it was. And I was really, really impressed. I thought that, you know, he was going to play greatest hits and that kind of thing, but he played all kinds of stuff, live versions that I'd never heard before. He played outtakes and other unusual versions. I actually heard quite a lot of music that I'd never heard before. So I'll put a link to his radio show in the comment section in the video description down below. And if you can check it out, please do. You'll also find the older broadcasts on the website as well. So definitely check him out and check out his Elvis radio show. But that's it for this week. If you have any comments on what I've shown, then feel free to fire away in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching. Cheers.